Tonight we spin a terrible tale of Pokemon that refuse to faint and rise back up from the grave. Zombie Pokemon, you've probably seen them here and there in fan art, a weird ROM hack or two, or most famously the Pokemon Adventures manga. Hey, this is Gatorex and welcome to the Halloween special. Yeah, I've been thinking about zombie Pokemon for a while. Not necessarily that we have a whole bunch of them, obviously we have the entire ghost type, but that is kind of something completely different. Ghost-type Pokemon on their own are really weird because they split into a bunch of different categories. You have some of them that, according to the Pokédex, are possessed objects that form and become this Pokemon, some of them that are supposedly the spirits of the fallen, some of them that are just inherently purely biological ghost Pokemon, and how that works I have no idea. And then you even have some of them that are that final category, except they're also controlled or possessed to some degree. The biology of ghost-type Pokemon has been something debated and talked about here and there for a long time, and on top of that, we don't really know how much to trust the Pokédex when it comes to the actual origins. But for all intents and purposes, I will say yes, there are some biological ghost Pokemon that can float, become invisible, possess things, go through walls. That is very obvious. What has been debated is whether they were humans or something else before. But the point is that those are all ghosts, the spirits of the departed. What I want to think about today are the undead, the reanimated corpses, the things that were gone and came back in the same body, if at all, and really there are not a whole lot of examples in Pokemon. But another really interesting question became, if we actually did have a zombie Pokemon, would it even be ghost type? Here are a few Pokemon I want to talk about, and obviously we'll still be referring to the Pokédex, but as always, let's have a fun spooky night and take it with a grain of salt. First of all, I want to bring it up as a fun little bonus. People always talk about Paras and Parasect, some bug and grass type Pokemon from Generation 1 that resemble crabs, I guess? But very obviously there is a mushroom on the back of Paras that becomes an even bigger mushroom on Parasect. And the Pokédex tells us that this is actually host and parasite pair, that the mushroom is controlling the actual bug Pokemon here. Something that we do actually see in nature where certain types of fungus will infect insects and control them, whether or not the insect is actually still alive in some cases. In more recent zombie media like The Last of Us, this has been used as a rationalization for a zombie outbreak, a certain viral fungus that will infest human bodies and control them. So really funny that we actually saw that with Paras and Parasect back then, though it's not necessarily stated whether Parasect is actually dead, but it is a fun idea because it fits in with modern zombie stories. Also, my hair does not want to cooperate, so hopefully we can make it through the rest of the video. Believe it or not, the first real example might actually just be Corsola. No, not that Corsola, the other one. Yes, Galarian Corsola, one that takes a fun little cute guy from Generation 2 and turns it into a very sad story. Obviously, this is a mono ghost type and looks very different. The reason for Corsola's white body is that it's meant to resemble dead coral in real life. Which, by the way, yeah, coral is an actual animal. And even though this is a very ghostly Pokemon, it appears as if it has still possessed its original body, which is a whole new level of gruesome and something that we don't necessarily see in other Pokemon. Because again, there are other Pokemon that are stated to be reborn spirits, but normally they create a new body or inhabit something else. Instead, Corsola goes back into its dead husk of a body. And on top of that, when it evolves into Cursola, it just explodes out of it, and yeah, this is definitely a ghost. But I think it is still crazy that it keeps some form of its original body in this design. Now that is metal. Then in the following generation, we have a fan favorite, Greavard and Houndstone. These are also ghost-type Pokemon that have an interesting Pokédex entry, stating that they were originally dog Pokemon that died and then came back to life. Some of the Pokédex entries do use the word reborn, and again they are ghost types and have some sort of spiritual aspect with the ghostly flame in Greavard, and also the fact that they drain life force. But a really interesting design aspect for these Pokemon are the bony feet that we see in Houndstone. You see a bit of it in Greavard, but much more in Houndstone, which also on top of that has just straight up a dog skull for a face. Sure, we had seen other Pokemon in the past that incorporated bones into their design, but those were all the bones of another Pokemon or another being, rather than just potentially being the actual bones of the thing when it was alive. I will say whether this Pokemon is actually a ghost or zombie or whatever is still debatable, but the fact that we have the first-hand account from Rhyme herself who supposedly brought one of these back to life, I'm inclined to believe it. And now for the final example that has the most indisputable proof, yeah, it is the Loyal 3 or the Lousy 3. These are Pokemon that did in fact die in the past when they fought against Ogerpon, which by the way, go girl, kill your ops. But yeah, they were straight up dead, confirmed by the villagers who buried them, and obviously they were buried for like, what, 200 years maybe? And then for them to just rise up out of the grave and come back to life because of the toxic chains around them given to them by Pecharunt. Yeah, these are like basically the first canon example of zombie Pokemon. You know, definitely they don't look like zombies, but we do know that their appearance was changed in some way because of the toxic chains. And none of these Pokemon are ghost types themselves. What is a ghost type is Pecharunt, and interestingly, it is a poison ghost type. Out of any Pokemon that would potentially create its own zombie outbreak, I would imagine it to be a ghost and poison type. And in fact, in the Moji Mayhem event, it just mind controls everybody in the town and effectively is a zombie outbreak. You know, in a really funny way with doing the chicken dance and all that. But the point is, some of the most Halloween-themed Pokemon might actually just be the loyal 3, whether they appear to be or not. So that was kind of a recap and a little discussion about all of the Pokemon that are undead, or at least, you know, the ones that I would define as undead, in that they were deceased and come back to life in some form in their original body, or, you know, whatever's left of it. So let me know what you think in the comments below about undead Pokemon and ghost types in general, and what you would define as undead, or, you know, try to keep to this. That was my idea. I watched Marvel Zombies, I played the zombie mode in Rivals, I wanted to talk about it, and I think it was a really interesting thing that we don't really see all that much in Pokemon. For it being a nearly 30-year franchise that lived through, like, the zombie resurgence, it was really funny to see that it didn't really play into that all that much. And I'm not saying that it needed to, I personally would just like some more diversity in terms of the ghost type Pokemon that we have. But I hope you have a safe and fun Halloween. I'm sorry I really didn't do as much as I normally do, but hopefully this kind of makes up for it with a fun little setup. And if you're a fan of things that are not zombies, just bears that lived a very long time, we still got the Onikuma design on the Gatorex shop, link in the description, probably a pinned comment as well. You obviously won't get this by Halloween, but it's something fun that you can wear year round, hopefully. Thank every channel member for your continued support, the Cool Crocs and the Great Gators for this special one here. Toucan Nia, That's Sven, Alex with Shiny Hunts, TBC Plumbing, Queued Up, Star Shooter, Ellie B, Debuda, Kai the Memer, Cosmo Zero, Ellie Wyatt, Tyler Hopper, Koi 13, Cemetery Hill, Cheese at 62, Gator Kid 509, TF, Mathaclog 947, Taijirai, Phantom, and Quago. I couldn't get them all in one take, but thank you. If you would like to support, see your name here, get access to emotes for comments, live streams, sometimes early videos, a member Discord server, and our members podcast. Oh boy, that is a lot to say, but you can become a channel member today. You can also follow me on Twitter as well for more memes, but anyway, this is Gatorex, and I will catch you all later.
And you scream this loud. Open your mouth and cover your eyes, cause Kids WB's got a big surprise. It's a monstrous morning of dreadful dreams and screeching screams. The scariest episodes of your favorite shows, all leading up to a special 1-hour night marathon of the Nightmare Room. The Kids WB Halloween Screamathon, coming next Saturday beginning at 8, 7 Central and Pacific here on Kids WB. Be there, be scared.